What's the commitment of quality from a crowdfunded comic book? Does it change? Are there different levels? Does communication matter? Well, of course, communication matters. It's actually at the heart of everything. But let's talk about quality and crowdfunding and indie comics. Hey, this is Perch. I think I've done a lot of videos before, and I'm a supporter of crowdfunding as a model. I'm not a believer that crowdfunding is going to take over all of comics. Sometimes just saying that gets people angry, like you're against crowdfunding, and to the contrary, I think crowdfunding is fine. I really appreciate it when creators do things with their Kickstarter or the Indiegogo campaigns, and they give a retailer option. The retailer can come in and buy a certain tier or reach out directly and not get a better deal, just get something that's formatted for the retailer. In some cases, some of the bigger creators will want something signed basically for resale. Some comics, I don't know, a lot of people think about this, and in comics, there's such a collector market anyway, but sometimes that's a factor if you're buying something that, do you have the rights to resell it and that kind of thing. These are all into the weeds. But what is true about crowdfunding comics, and really any indie comic that's not put through one of the major publishers. When I say major publishers, I'm actually lowering that bar quite a bit. I mean, like Vault, Boom, IDW, Dark Horse. Those are still, let's say known publishers. They're not Marvel or DC big, but they're known publishers. And crowdfunded comics, indie comics, can have a variety of quality levels. You can have comics that are basically hand stapled. You can have things where the pages don't quite fit. You can have different printing quality. You can there's a paper quality all over the place. There's lots of different quality tiers. And what's interesting is that a lot of people who jump into crowdfunding comics tend to exaggerate the quality of the comic they're going to produce. And I think this is an idea of the eyes are bigger than the stomach, so to speak. It's where you see something that Marvel has done. It's stuff on a paper, and maybe you've been listening to a lot of videos, and they always point out like the spelling errors or the kind of the printing is rubbing off on this variant cover or whatever, what have you, and you think I could do better than that. That's a reasonable thing to think. I can do better than this. And then you start doing it. You actually give it a try, and you discover that there's problems. I think anyone who's actually tried to do a really high fidelity, perfect print of something, and they're using kind of that home printer at home, will quickly discover kind of the nightmares of that whole process. And even worse, if you've ever sent your digital files off to a printer and then you get something back and it's not what you expected, it's off. They didn't have Adobe Typeset on there, and suddenly your font has been auto replaced by Courier. I mean, there's a million little things. That doesn't happen as much anymore. But trust me, back in the '90s, man, people would do little indie comics. And they'd work hard and they'd get it all right. They'd use their custom True Type font. They'd send it off to the printer, and the printer would send it back with it in Courier. And it's like, well, your font wasn't a PostScript font, so the printer didn't know how to interpret it, and then it's all jacked. I mean, this is something that happens. And it's a hard lesson learned for somebody. Where are you walking the tightrope? Did you select your printer well? Did you try and basically cut a few dollars off the product because you're trying to save yourself money, you're funding this yourself, you're wanting a profit, what have you, and you don't opt for that proof copy, or there's lots of little mistakes you can make that in hindsight you look back and go, I should have paid the extra $4 or whatever. Comics is hard. I think that's something I want to stress. So often I get either I get the comic or somebody points out to me, hey, did you see this? Look at this crap. And then they're like, what do you think about this? And then, I look at it and it's like, okay, it's, varying degrees of quality. And I've seen, keep in mind, I mean, I grew up with indie books in the 80s and the 90s that were printed, some guys were going down to the, local zero. I mean, I remember okay, so here, this will be your age. It'll express my age. So only a few of you will remember this. So there was once a thing where you would put your paper on a drum, and you would hit the proof, the copy, and then you would hand roll it, and it would go through this purple smelling ink, this chemical, and you would just you got this a lot in school, so you get these tests, and they would just reek of this chemical smell, and you'd be sitting there in class just getting super high, doing your math test. Not helpful, but I forget the name of that now. Now, see this, I'm both remembering an old thing and then doubling down on that old by forgetting the name. It's the ditto machine is what they call it in in school, which is obviously as a dumb name. Anyway, I knew a guy who did his comics on that. I mean, some people have done indie comics on lots of different things, lots of quality, lots of issues, lots of error. And so I'm a bit, I don't want to say jaded. Jaded's the wrong word. Just kind of numb, to quality problems. It's like something comes out, I can take a look at it. I'm like, yep, here's your problem. You didn't do this, and I don't get really emotionally wrapped up in it. Even when I buy it, if I pay, the 4, 10, $25, whatever, and I get something back, and I look at it, I'm like, well, here's where they didn't typeset it properly. Here's where you didn't leave enough bleed room. Here's where, the page got cut off. Here's where the staple machine was, ramming things through and used too big a staple. I mean, I'm used to it, so I don't get like real angry, like I probably should since I'm spending money. But so people are always bringing me stuff, and recently the one that is on a lot of people's minds in social media is stealing solo, and they say, "Oh, look at this thing." Now, I want to say on the offset, I think that a lot of the people who are pointing out the flaws of the comic were not necessarily angry customers. They were people who didn't like the creator. So I should say, as a disclaimer, I don't know who the creator is. I mean, I've seen the name, but I don't know him. I don't know, what he's done. I don't know if he's friends with this person or that person. I don't know what clan he belongs to. I don't know all these things, but I suspect that the guy is part of one of the clans, war campaign or somewhere. Probably not. I don't know what war somewhere. I'm not seeing the trick. Thankfully, the war campaign clan and the drama around war campaign, they've got the little WC icon in the name, so it's a nice, handy, like, okay, this guy belongs there. That's helpful. It's easy identifying if you don't pay any attention. I see the craziest threads, by the way, and thankfully people don't tag me in. But I'll go and I'll see the most insane threads between people, just like going at each other, like, you're a liar, you're a liar, you're a liar, just boom, wham. And then I look, and both of the people are following me on Twitter, and I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. Am I Switzerland here? Do I officially get that reputation, or are they just do they not know that the other follows me, and one day there's somebody's going to find out, and we're like, oh, he's with clan war campaign, or he's with clan one of the others. Wasn't there one called Turbo for a while? I don't know. Again, I don't keep track. But I'm I'm always feel a little happy that I can be following by both, and I always feel like I'm going to follow both back, and then just show my support for the fact that I'm in the middle. I don't know what I'm saying right now. Sorry. So anyway, stealing solo. I suspect a lot of the anger and the he's ripping us off and that kind of stuff came from a competing clan member, but I don't know for sure. But that's my suspicion where a lot of the noise came from. But if I can take all that noise away, kind of just push it to the side, I think there's two things that comic and that experience shows us. One, what's key is to communicate to the customers, to people funding it, to your audience, the expectations, set right expectations. I'm doing it this way. So I love the Kickstarters or Indiegogos where the person is like, I'm going to this printer. I mean, it's not a trade secret. There's a limited amount of printers out there. You're not hiding anything. Like, if you're not going to stumble across the golden printer that gives you a great deal, and you have to keep it from everyone else to keep your competitive edge. There's no point to it. So I love the people who are like, I'm going to this printer, I'm using this one, I'm getting a proof on this day, and they just show the details. They'll copy paste out of the mail that they get from the printer or whoever, and just here you go, backers. Here's what's going on. I think that's awesome. People who do that, great. If you don't do that, see, I think that's the key. Just communicate. Here's what's going on. And most people, if you think about it, if they're dropping $25 to back your project, they're funding you more than the comic in a lot of ways. They're kind of giving you a pat on the back. They're saying, I support you. Go for it. And that's really what they're doing. So therefore, the best thing to do is be open, transparent, honest about what's going on with them. Let's saying, hey, I took this printer, I got a copy back. Crap, it looks like hell. There's a little, text issue. They didn't have the PostScript font, whatever it happens to be. I know that's not how it works anymore. But I think that most of the people, the vast majority of the people will go, oh man, that sucks. Okay, you had a problem. All right, well, how can we help? Or we don't mind waiting an extra month, or whatever. The people will be understanding of those problems if you communicate them. And so I just think it's best to just put it out there, like, hey, this is going wrong. Got to fix this. And I mean, they a lot of people, again, they're funding for you, and they're funding to be part of the journey. So let them in and let them be part of the journey, and they'll be happier. Now, the other part is, I think, reach out to people who have done it before. And now here's where it gets hard because of, again, the clan behavior. I don't think there's a lot of people like me who try and just, generally speaking, and there are limits. If somebody asks me for help, I will help them. If somebody asks me for advice, I will try. The big negative that I'll express is that sometimes people ask me for help and then gets buried under a giant pile of things, and 3 months later I get back to it, and that sucks. But what I would ask is, in those cases, I'm never offended if somebody wants to poke me hard. Of, hey, dumbass, I gave you something. Where is it? Just keep poking me. I don't know if everybody else is like this, but my mail and my messaging is like it's all over the place. So one week I will have 500 emails, just a deluge of mail and messaging, and then the next week 4, and it's like there's no consistency. And so please pester me. But my point is, reach out to somebody who knows what they're doing or has been there in the past. And if you're really embedded into your clan, you're gonna feel kind of like you want to reach out to somebody in your clan. And my advice is, don't do that. Or do that, but make sure you get somebody out of your clan. And the reason is, you want honesty. You want somebody who's going to go, hey, you know, I like you fine as a person, but I'm not going to lie to you to kind of maintain our clan win record. So, here's a printer you should use. Here's something you shouldn't use. By the way, this penciler that you want to use for your cover is a known flake, so be careful. Don't give the money up front. I mean, there's people who will freely give that advice. Lots of people. And I mean, and not just me. I mean, like, I think I've known people who have reached out to Peter Simetti, who prints all kinds of stuff cheap, and said, hey, what do you think about this? And he'll give advice. I've known people who've reached out to Tim Lim, and he's given advice. I know Tim Lim is maybe a part of a different clan, or I know some clans dislike him, and that's fine. But the guy holds some information in his head, and he's usually willing to give it out. So you take that opportunity. I mean, I'll put it to you this way. Let's say there's somebody you really don't like, somebody who's in that different clan, argues with you, all the rest. If you're able to get a quote unquote enemy to give you valuable information, God, you'd be crazy not to take it. Take it. Make your product better. You should get lots of inputs on things. But whatever you do, when you stay inside your clan, you're just limiting the amount of people who are going to help you, give you advice, steer you through these problems. And chances are you're also going to get slightly dubious advice. Because everybody say, hey, I'm your friend, I'll always tell you the truth. They will, and they may even mean that. But there's still an element of, that they're not going to necessarily point out how you will fail. They'll maybe help you succeed, but they're not going to point out how you will fail. And somebody pointing out, here's how you will fail, is great information. It often feels like a threat, often feels bad, but that is sometimes the most valuable information, because those are the risks you need to protect yourself from. And maybe it's a glass half full, glass half empty kind of thing. At any rate, the key is communicate with your people. Here's what you're going to get. The key is, as seen, as delivered as seen, so to speak, or just set expectations. Hey, I'm an up and coming comic maker. Hey, I'm trying to make it's going to be black and white. It's going to be, ash can size. It's going to be 40 pages. That's what you're going to get. Here's some samples of the artwork. It's going to look like this on the interior. Certainly want to market yourself to put your best foot forward, but that doesn't mean you put an imaginary foot forward. You need to set expectations. And if you do that, by and large, most people will support you, cheer you on, give you great advice, all the rest. And that's what's important in comics. So Stealing Solo as a book, my understanding is that the guy has reached out to his backers and is trying to make it right for them. So good for him. That's what he should be doing. I don't know the details. I've heard, so this guy's like, oh, the whole comic is jacked. Another person is, no, it were some extra pages that they're bad, not the core comic. Sure, I don't know. I don't have the comic in front of me, so I can't say. I can only go off the pictures I've seen. The pictures I've seen show some real production errors, and so hopefully the guy fixes it and moves on, and his next project's more successful. And if he's communicating and he's being transparent with the backers, then most of those backers will probably support him for the next book, and that's really all that matters. I am amazed at how there's a handful of people who reach out to me for advice. I give it. Sometimes people follow it. Sometimes they don't. I never feel offended when they don't. But I'm surprised more people don't reach out to the Peter Simettis or Larry King or me, of people who have done this stuff a lot and can give tips and are happy. The crazy part, happy to give tips, happy to point people in certain directions. It's weird. I think that's weird. Anyway, there you go. Quality, quality, transparency, communication, setting expectations. And the last thing, in today's day and age, unless you are super transparent with your backers that this is what's going to happen, I think printing the address label or pasting the address label on the back of the comic and mailing it out, kind of, rolled magazine style or even flat magazine style, which a lot of magazines do, it's a bad idea for comics. And I mean, beyond the obvious, the biggest reason is you're giving a key part of the quality away to the postal service. The reason why people put it in the envelope is because you're protecting it from destruction. I flew down. I went through Peru recently, and I was flying out of the airport, and I hadn't seen this before, but apparently this is common. So maybe you guys all know it. But there's a service where you could take your bag, your luggage, and they would basically wrap it in kind of bubble wrap. They would protect it for like $20. They would wrap your whole luggage in this bubble wrap, and I'm looking at that going, that is ridiculous. I would never pay $20. I mean, I bought luggage for that reason, so it protects the stuff inside of it. That's ridiculous. So I'm not wrapping it in bubble wrap. That's stupid. And then when I got to my next stop, I pick up my luggage. My luggage just destroyed. Like the zipper is broken and the tag is off. And I'm like, oh, I see. I get it. This is a little message to good old to people flying out of Peru that the baggage handlers are just gonna like play football with the bags before they go out. The South America. No, that's not fair. Brazil is lovely and wonderful, but you got to laugh at what people do. Anyway, like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications if you don't mind, but subscribe, please subscribe. That is very helpful. I really appreciate people who are loyal subscribers or disloyal subscribers, one of those. Follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch. Thanks for listening.